What's going on, everyone? Alexander Levine here, personal trainer and fitness nutrition specialist with Ankylosing Spondylitis. So the hardest thing about Ankylosing Spondylitis is it can be extremely confusing. Trying to know, should I work out hard? Should I work out light? What exercises should I do? How do I get stronger? How do I stay flexible? What do I do when I have sciatica? What do I do when I'm in a flare? What do I do when things hurt more? Should I exercise? Should I lay off? It's a pretty confusing puzzle to piece together, right? This is what makes it hard to know how to attack this thing. It can be really hard to attack this thing in multiple realms: medication, nutrition, exercise. It can be hard to know. We're always kind of trying to figure out what to do. We're always trying to figure out, how do we attack this thing? How do we feel better? How do we keep going with this? And, in terms of fitness, I think what I've learned over the years is there's many ways to do this. There's many ways to get stronger. There's many ways to get flexible. There's many ways to work on just feeling good from working out, feeling good from moving, and everyone's goals are going to be different. Everyone's going to be drastically different with this, and you have to find the right approach for you. But saying all that, I want to give some kind of direct tips here for those who are really struggling to get going, struggling to know, what should I do? Should I do these stretches? Should I do those stretches? So I'm going to break this down into just two pretty simple things that really helped me over the years. The first thing is going to be, find exercises that you can do today that don't cause more pain. You can do them right now. You can do exercise. They're not going to affect anything in the body. They're just some things you can turn to even on days that you're struggling. That doesn't mean you always do them when you're struggling, but some exercises, some movements you can most likely turn to on most days of the week, right? So for me, this was kind of the first step for me. What can I just do today? I was struggling so much when I was diagnosed. Things I used to do weren't working for me anymore. I was trying to do old movements, traditional movements at the time were not working for me. I've talked about this a lot. The bench press, the heavy lifting, these things weren't working for me. I was just in too much pain. I was dealing with too many discrepancies in the body. I had so much tightness in certain areas. I was, this joint pain. I was struggling with the shoulder pain. So I had to find some new methods. So the first step, find those things that work for you right now. Things that worked for me. I highlight these a lot in my videos. Honestly, just supported stretching, modified stretching. So using a wall as support, using a chair for support, supported downward dog, doing various calf stretches, standing, working on my posture where I'm getting my back into a wall and I'm working on tucking my low back in, engaging the core, working on some different overhead reaches, some wall slides with my back into a wall. So I started to find things, again, that I can do often, that even when I'm struggling, I can do them. Maybe I have to reduce the range of motion. Maybe I have to really ease in on some days if, say, I'm struggling with sciatica, or again, that mid-back tightness, that neck tightness. But these are some things that I can always do. Aside from the supported stretching and using some different tools, reducing the range of motion, I focused on, what can I do strength training wise? If I'm really stiff and tight, sometimes the stretching is no good for me. So I started to find different ways to strength train when I was struggling, not always using weights, using a lot of resistance bands. When I had that mid-back tightness, maybe I could use some bands to loosen it up. So resistance bands were a great tool for me, using them in a lot of different fashions for leg strength, upper body strength, and machines, resistance machines. A great tool when I had sciatica and I was really limping around, but I still wanted to, all right, in my head, I said, I got to keep going. This is one of those days where mentally it's so important on some of these days with spondylitis to just keep going and do anything we can to also make sure the whole body doesn't, get stiff and tight. That's something for me that happens when I have sciatica. I stop moving, everything hurts. Then my mid-back hurts, my hips hurt. So it's like, you got to find a balance of, when we're struggling, what can we do? What can we turn to? And that's where I started to use resistance machines so I could keep the consistency going. I could do maybe more upper body stuff on that day sciatica hit, or say my mid-back, my neck was bothering me, I'm going to do more lower body work. So these are the things I started to think about. Consistency. This is how we stay consistent. This is how we adapt. We are the best adapters in the world with ankylosing spondylitis. We've learned to adapt. We've learned to limp around and still have to get things done. We've learned to live with stiffness and tightness and to continuously find ways to loosen up. So that's what we do. We adapt. We find different ways. And that's what I started to really learn to do. Again, rest is important. Sometimes you need that rest. Maybe inflammation's high. But for me, a lot of the times I had to find different ways to keep working out. So the number one, of course, is find those things you can consistently do on the good days, on the bad days. Number two is going to be, this is really important. We have a lot of areas in our body that are a lot tighter than other areas. And this is different for everyone. Again, I've highlighted this for me. The sciatica for me has plagued me. The hip tightness. My mid-back's always been tight since I've had this. My neck, I've always had issues with my neck. So in terms of these areas and exercising to target these areas, we have to take a little more slower approach. We have to be a little more careful. We have to make sure we're really warming up these areas. We're really focused on the stretching and the cool down of these areas. So I want to use myself as an example. The glute strength for sciatica, the core stability is pretty difficult for me because sacroiliitis, SI joint stuff going on. These can be really challenging for me to activate the glutes. So something like a clamshell or a single leg bridge, these things can be really challenging for me. Say exercises like the dead bug, the bird dog, where the low back can really easily get irritated. These are the group of exercises that are harder for me to do, but I have to do them. So I know that I need to ease into them. I need to do maybe less repetitions. I need to focus on the warm up, the cool down, but I need to build these slower to make sure I don't get too sore when I do them. So something like the clamshell, this is where I start with less weight, maybe no weight at all. So I think it's really important. This is where we have to adapt, and we need to target these areas because these are what can really make it hard for us overall. I mean, if we're really tight in one area, it can really hamper a lot of other things. We really want to make sure we're focusing in on it. But my suggestion to folks is ease into these things. Don't force these things. It'll come over time. Find that consistency, but maybe you do a little less of these things and build it up slower. So the single leg bridge, again, the clamshell, the bird dog, the dead bug, all these things for me, I've really slowly built them. For me, the inside of the leg, the adductor gets really tight, so I have to be a little more careful stretching it. I have to find some different techniques. I have to strengthen it. I have to really individualize some of these areas and strengthen it, but at a slower pace, and I have to be really careful. I have to be really focused. So don't be afraid to do less repetitions in those areas and really ease in. There's nothing wrong with doing other things kind of with more intensity, but easing off some things, but we're still building it. So this is how we adapt. We piece it all together. Some areas are going to be a lot harder to loosen up. It'll take time. It'll take a little more time, but it'll come. Everything with consistency and with the right approach will come. So that's my main tip today. There's going to be a lot of different ways that we can focus on these things. The good news is we have so many different tools in fitness, right? Again, I started by saying supported stretching, using different kind of yoga techniques. Traditional strength training for me sometimes turns into more resistance bands and machines instead of, say, maybe the bench press or more heavy weights. I like to use weights, but sometimes just too much on the body, and I incorporate all of it. So I want you guys to let me know in the comments if that was helpful. If you're someone who's struggling to get going, what are some things you've tried, and what are some things that have really helped you? What are those things that you could do today that you're like, oh, this feels pretty good? Maybe some supported stretching, maybe some yoga techniques, maybe Pilates, maybe strength training feels great. What are those things that you really build off of? And I want to hear from people because this is how we build the community. This is how we share ideas. Talk to you guys next time.